Talking to strangers used to fill me with anxiety. My palms would sweat, my mind would go blank, and I'd freeze up. It wasn't always like this, but somewhere along the way, I developed a deep fear of starting conversations with people I didn't know. Whether at a party, a networking event, or just a casual encounter at the store, the fear felt paralyzing. I remember the first time I really noticed it. It was at a family gathering, and I barely knew anyone. I found myself in the corner, quietly observing, feeling like an outsider. Every time I thought about starting a conversation, my mind would come up with a million excuses. What if they don't like me? What if I say something stupid? What if the conversation dies awkwardly? It wasn't until I realized how much this fear was holding me back that I decided to face it head on. The truth was, my fear wasn't about the other person. It was about my own insecurities. Overcoming this wasn't easy, but with time and practice, I discovered a few strategies that helped me push through my anxiety. Slowly, I started talking to strangers with more confidence, and little by little, I learned that the fear wasn't as big as I thought. The first step in overcoming any fear is acknowledging it. For the longest time, I denied how much my fear of talking to strangers was holding me back. I'd make excuses for not starting conversations, but deep down, I knew it was because I was afraid of being judged. The moment I admitted this to myself, things started to shift. I realized that this fear was completely normal. Everyone feels nervous in social situations at some point. By accepting that it's okay to feel anxious, I was able to ease the pressure I had been putting on myself. It wasn't about eliminating the fear entirely, but understanding that it didn't have to control me. This simple acknowledgement gave me the courage to start facing it head on. I didn't dive straight into the deep end. Instead, I took small steps to ease into it. A simple hi to the barista at my local coffee shop or asking a colleague about their weekend plans were the little things that helped me start conversations without feeling overwhelmed. One of the biggest lessons I learned was that the stakes were lower than I thought. In most cases, the other person wasn't as focused on my nerves as I was. People are often more caught up in their own thoughts than we realize, which made it easier for me to talk without overthinking every word. These small interactions built my confidence, one step at a time. One of the biggest changes I made was shifting my focus away from my own fears and towards the person I was talking to. Instead of stressing about how I was coming across or what they might think of me, I started focusing on the conversation itself. What did they like? What were they passionate about? By asking open-ended questions, I learned more about them, and that took the pressure off me. The more I focused on the other person, the more natural the conversation felt. It wasn't about impressing anyone or worrying about how I looked. It was about connecting with them on a human level. This shift in perspective made all the difference, and conversations started flowing much more easily. Let's be honest, sometimes conversations with strangers can be awkward, and that's perfectly okay. I had to accept that these awkward moments were just part of the process. If I stumbled over my words or there was an uncomfortable pause, I stopped stressing about it. I realized that everyone experiences these moments, and it's how we handle them that counts. When I said something silly or awkward, I'd just laugh it off. Humor became my secret weapon. It lightened the mood and helped me feel more at ease. Over time, I learned that people are generally understanding and forgiving of small social slip-ups, and that made the whole experience less intimidating. Like any skill, getting comfortable with talking to strangers took practice. I made it a goal to initiate conversations every day, whether it was with a colleague I didn't know well or someone I encountered in my daily routine. The more I practiced, the easier it became. One of the most effective exercises I did was challenging myself to start a conversation with at least one new person every week. At first, it was terrifying, but the more I did it, the more natural it felt. I began seeking out opportunities to engage with people, even in situations that used to make me uncomfortable. With time, talking to strangers became second nature. Every time I had a successful conversation with a stranger, I celebrated it, no matter how small. Whether it was a quick chat with a neighbor or a fellow commuter, I acknowledged my progress. Each conversation was a win, and celebrating them kept me motivated. At first, I feared rejection. What if they didn't respond well? But I soon realized rejection wasn't personal. It was just part of life. Not every conversation would be perfect, and that was okay. I learned not to take rejection personally. Instead, I saw it as a chance to grow. Some conversations click, others don't, but that's all part of the process. Overcoming my fear of talking to strangers wasn't easy. It took time, patience, and practice. By acknowledging my fear, starting small, focusing on others, embracing the awkwardness, and practicing regularly, I pushed through my anxiety. Now, striking up a conversation feels much less daunting. If you struggle with this fear, you're not alone. It's something many of us face. But with the mindset and consistent effort, you can overcome it too. Every conversation is a chance to connect, learn, and grow. So take a deep breath, start small, and embrace the process. You've got this.